All right, guys, this is big breaking red alert emergency news. All right, everyone heard about this earthquake that happened this morning. There was a 4.7, 4.8. It was originally measured at a 5.5. Actually, some estimates were recording it at. But everyone heard of the earthquake that hit New York and New Jersey today. All right, but they also just had a second earthquake. They just had another earthquake that hit the same region. All right, and we're going to dive into potentially what's going on and potentially what we could see happen inside the country. We could be getting prepared for the big one. This could be the birthing pains for a big earthquake that's going to hit the United States. And I've been talking about this the past few months because even the National Guard and the U.S. military have been running drills inside of Alaska for a 9.2 earthquake to hit Alaska. That's what they have been running drills for. And today we just saw a 4.8 hit New Jersey. Right? So this is big, and this could have been a reaction to this big earthquake that we saw in Japan just a few days ago as well. And we could be getting prepared for a major earthquake around the new Madrid fault line as well. I've been warning of this for a few months now, and it seems like this could be the scenario. All right, so let's dive into the details here really quick. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. I'm posting multiple videos a day, keeping you guys updated on this big news. All right, so you can see here, this is the pressure release pattern of pressure being released through the plates that are inside the United States. And a lot of people don't realize that the Appalachian Mountain Range is a giant fault line, right? There's a massive mountain range that goes from North Georgia, North Alabama, all the way up into New York and Maine. All right, it goes all the way up through there. And that's why we had this earthquake that happened today. All right, and we actually just saw another earthquake hit New York. All right, so we had this 4.8. Now we just had a 3.8 hit New Jersey as well. This is big. So you can see here it says 5:59 p.m. April 5th. So we had one this morning at 10:23 a.m. and then we had another one at 5:59 in a very similar region. And look at all these earthquakes that have just hit today. All right, a 2.9 has hit in Belden, California today. All right, we also had a 2.6 hitting in Barrejo Springs, California today. These are all earthquakes happening today. We had a 2.5 in Alaska. We had another 2.5 yesterday, and then we had these earthquakes in New York as well, right? So there's a big shift going on. We had this big earthquake in Taiwan, right? And then we saw a big one in Japan the next day. We were seeing this pressure being released, and it's being pushed over to Alaska and down the west coast. The ring of fire is being activated, and when the ring of fire has disturbances, we normally tend to see disturbances as well internally. All right, so part of that disruption coming from Alaska now is going to translate and go down the North American craton. All right, so you can see here that there's the North American craton. That's the stabilized form of North America, right? And there's a deformed belt on the west coast that is moving along this craton, right? And you can see here that parts of Florida, Texas, New Jersey, New York, they are technically not part of this craton. And you can see here that's about right where the Appalachian Mountains run up the country, and that's also right where the new Madrid fault line is, right there in the middle of the country as well, right? So that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing this disturbance and we're seeing this movement because once there's a major adjustment one part in the world, all the other plates have to now readjust. It's like your teeth, when your teeth are jammed in there and your teeth get crammed and there's not enough space in your mouth and they start getting pushed together and they start hurting, right? It's very similar. That's what's going on with the tectonic plates right now of the earth, right? And we could potentially see a big one like this, all right? This is what happened in 1811, in 1812. So we had a major solar eclipse that happened in 1811, all right? And then the following year, from 1811 to 1812, we had the largest earthquakes that have ever been recorded in U.S. history, the New Madrid earthquakes right there along the Mississippi River. I've been talking about this for a few months now, since I just realized one day, wait a minute, it's marking an X over this New Madrid fault line. I knew about this fault line, I knew about these earthquakes, and I saw the solar eclipse marking an X right over it, and I just had a feeling that this could be what's going on. And what do you know, they had a very similar solar eclipse that happened the year before, and then the following year they had record-breaking after record-breaking earthquake. You can see here, December 16th, a 7.7, December 16th, a 7.0, January 23rd, a 7.5, February 7th, a 7.7, right? And this was felt all throughout the country. This was a major disturbance, and they were even saying it made the Mississippi River run backwards, and it even created certain lakes along the Mississippi River. So make sure you guys are getting prepared. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen, but it seems like the cards are being set, all right? And there's all this weird, sketchy technology. CERN is being activated on the same time, and CERN can potentially create its own magnetic field and potentially even disrupt the Earth's own magnetic field, right? And allow electromagnetic radiation from the sun to potentially enter our atmosphere at an increased rate because it diminishes our own magnetic field, right? All these things are happening. NASA's firing rockets into this solar eclipse, right, to study the ionosphere. We don't know what they're doing, right? And even the ionosphere, I've been documenting how things like HARP that manipulates our upper atmosphere can create plasmas, right? And what is lightning? It's essentially a plasma. What happened to New York City yesterday? If you didn't see, this was New York City yesterday. This was the Statue of Liberty. It got struck by lightning yesterday, right? And I've been documenting how these things like HARP, they manipulate the ionosphere. They can create artificial plasmas and artificial auroras that you can actually see. And they even have lightning manipulation technology, and they can direct where lightning goes, right? So put all these things together. If they were able to cause magnetic disturbances to the Earth's crust potentially, then they could potentially trigger earthquakes or potentially amplify earthquakes and disturbances that are already happening. All right, so I'm not saying they did, but these things are on the line now. We need to be looking at these technologies because we're living in the 21st century, right? And we need to be thinking that someone could be using these technologies against us. All right, do you remember the Turkey earthquake, that very strange ring that appeared in the air? Everyone saw it, right? Before the Turkey earthquake. And there was all this strange lightning, right? So that is potentially what we are talking about here, creating their own magnetic fields and magnetic disturbances that then trigger geological responses inside the earth, right? Because the inside of the earth is very fluid, right? And it responds to these disturbances from the earth or from the sun. Whenever the sun has increased solar activity, then we normally see increased earthquakes and things along these lines, because the earth and its core are reacting to the electromagnetic manipulation from the sun. And these technologies like HARP are trying to mimic what the sun does to our atmosphere and our ionosphere, the outermost layer of the atmosphere that's interacting directly with the sun. All right, so be prepared, guys. Be prepared. We could see a big one. There's a lot of geological disturbances. This could be the birthing pains of a big earthquake that's going to hit the United States. And really quick, check out this document from the Air Force. It says Alaska Main Guard conduct disaster preparation exercise. You can see here, this was posted just last month. I reported on this, and it says the National Guard in Alaska and Maine are doing simulations for a 9.2, they're calling it a massive 9.2 magnitude earthquake with the epicenter in south central Alaska in the Prince William Sound, right? So, and they're saying it could potentially mimic the 1964 Good Friday earthquake. All right, so this could be big. And if we see a triggering something like this in Alaska, then that energy is going to go down into California. All right, and they're warning of tsunamis. They're warning of major tsunamis along the West Coast. So let me know what you guys think. What are you doing to get prepared? It's one of these things, if there's a mega quake like this, what are you going to do? There's really not much you can do except start praying at that point. All right. And the emergency response is not going to be there for you. You can see here NYC officials ripped for sending earthquake emergency alerts nearly 25 minutes after the fact. All right. So 25 minutes later, people were getting alerts on their phone. Some people were saying 45 minutes later, an hour later, they didn't get this alert on their phone because there was so much congestion. They're trying to send out this alert to everyone at the same exact time, and it didn't go out, and it was too late. They weren't even able to predict it preemptively and get out the alerts. It was all too late, right? So you can't depend on the government to save you in these situations. Whenever there's a real emergency, that means that the government services are going to be overwhelmed. They are going to be at their limit, and they're not actually going to help you. Now it's an emergency, all right? You can have personal emergencies. That happens, right? But the real emergency is that government services are going to be overwhelmed. Nobody's going to actually be able to respond or actually help you if there's a major mega quake like this, all right? And if you've seen the pictures out of Taiwan, they're insane. I'm not joking. I literally thought some of these pictures were AI. I thought some of them were artificial intelligence, because the buildings that are just leaning sideways and people are just standing there looking at this massive building that's tilted over like this. Imagine an NYC skyrise tilted over like this, worse than the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and you're just standing there in front of it. I literally thought, I was like, this is AI generated or something. This looks unreal. That's how devastating it was, this earthquake that just hit Taiwan. All right, and there's all this stuff going on in Taiwan. We know Taiwan's the epicenter of this conflict between the United States and China right now as well too. That could have potentially been some kind of earthquake weapon they're used. We don't know, right? It could have been a natural earthquake as well, because this is the epicenter of all these tectonic plates smashing together. All right, there's about a dozen different plates that are right here outside of Japan, China, Taiwan, and Indonesia, and they're always clashing into each other and readjusting. That's why we always see major earthquakes outside of Japan. All right, so if the big one happens, your phone's not going to work, or the emergency alert's going to get to you hours later. So be prepared, have a stockpile, because that's going to be the biggest thing, is grids could go down. This could absolutely destroy a grid, destroy entire pipelines, gas pipelines, going in natural gas pipelines, which are 20 to 40% of the electrical grid, depending on where you live. All right, so all these pipelines are going to be shut down. Gas pipelines, oil pipelines, all shut down. supply chains shut down, if bridges are destroyed, all these things. It's going to be chaos if we see a big earthquake hit these very populated areas. And if we do see something happen in the middle of the country with the new Madrid fault line, if we see a big one, a 7, a 8, hit this region, all right along the Mississippi River, right about here, right, then there's going to be aftershocks. There's going to be a 6 or a 7 that hits New York and hits the Appalachian Mountains, where that pressure is then pushed and relieved down the line. All right, so get prepared now, guys. Get ready, right? Nothing's certain. Nobody knows the future, and we are kind of overdue for something like this to happen. So be prepared, be on your toes. I've just had a feeling about these earthquakes lately too. If you guys have been watching, I've been covering them the past few months and really just thinking there's possibly something that's going to happen. And now we see it. Now we're seeing it finally affect the United States, and it's only a few days before this eclipse too. All right, and the one in the 1800s, the earthquakes didn't happen right away. They happen a few months later, spread out after the eclipse. All right, so let me know what you guys think. Make sure you're getting prepared. Make sure you're ready in case there's a big one that hits, because it's going to be sudden. Nobody's going to know. We can maybe try to predict it, say, oh, there could be something, but nobody really knows when exactly it's going to hit. And you need to be ready. You need to have your tanks filled, gas tanks, water tanks, and your prepper pantry filled up. So thank you guys. I hope you have big blessings for your life and your family. And I hope you have a big old blessed day.